I'm here with Bob Goodwin, who, in full disclosure, I've known since 1990 when I first was an inspector in the field on a project that Bob was in charge of called Colorado Place. And I'm sure you recall back in those days.
I do.
And my habit had been to, rather than get dispatched by our people, just to say, that's the job I want. And it was close to my house. So I went and introduced myself to at that time, the superintendent for McCarthy for that project. And he said, well, I don't have anything to do with it. You need to go talk to Bob Goodwin. And that was our first meeting back in 1990. And we've been working together, not on the same firm or anything, but associated with one another for all the years since. And in my opinion, it's been a great relationship, one of the favorite ones I have in this industry for sure. But just to get started, I want to just let you know this is the inaugural edition of what we're calling Building Connections with Twining, and we want to have a regular video every couple months or so. But can you tell us a little bit about your history, where you're from, and your early years?
Sure. Grew up in Kansas, rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
Actually started on a farm. Ended up out of high school going into the military, and from the military to college. Went to Kansas State University and thought I wanted to be an architect. And after 4.5 years, I figured out that architects didn't make very much money and switched over to construction management and engineering.
I see.
Got a degree from there and started a career down in Texas.
I had recalled that you had at least a Texas base from I don't even remember what conversation it was. And then if I recall correctly, you went back to Texas for a while after we finished Colorado Place, and there was going to be a Playa Vista development that kind of unraveled a little bit. And didn't you go to Texas for a while after that?
I did. I was in Texas for about 6 or 7 years, working in both Houston and Dallas on a variety of projects, and then transferred out here with McGuire Thomas Partners, who I'd done a project with in Dallas. And then that firm broke apart, and we formed another company called Commonwealth Partners here in Los Angeles, and did a couple buildings with them, and then got recruited by Ross Perot Jr. to go back to Texas.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, and built the American Airlines Arena and some other, headed up their Hillwood development as their president for a couple of years, and then got called back by the another McGuire organization. Rob and I worked together until he died recently.
I see. I didn't even know that Rob had passed away.
Yes.
I met him on several occasions, but never really got close to him. But how did that relationship develop?
It was interesting. He was very approachable, great guy. I worked on and off with him for over 40 years.
I see.
And the last few years, he wasn't in very good shape financially or physically, but I continued helping him pretty much for free.
Well, development is a tough business.
It's a very tough business.
I know you can become very wealthy, and I know you can become the opposite of that.
Very
there's
quickly.
A lot of leverage, and things can turn against you quickly. I know, we did the Broad Museum with actually Rob Pinkerton at that time, and Eli Broad obviously is a very, very successful developer, but it can bite you big time. There's no doubt about it.
Correct.
So with that all being said, you have been a really good friend for us in the sense of introducing us to people and giving us opportunities to work on projects. And currently we're working for the Armenian American Museum, and you have kind of been our champion in that sense of letting them know what we can do and how we can do it. But what else do you have going on?
I usually keep 2 to 3 projects going. I have a project up in Santa Barbara, a residential project that I'd reached out to you, but you didn't have people in that area at that time. It's a big residential, probably about a $200 million project.
Wow, that is big, yeah.
On 40 acres overlooking the ocean.
I see.
The last probably 10 years, I've worked for one billionaire or another. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that. And after you've worked for 2 or 3 of them, it's kind of an entry point for others.
Yeah.
And mostly on, particular projects of architectural interest is what I'm looking for.
I see.
So that's one. And I also work for a repeat client in Boston on 2 data centers that he has that are under construction. And I built a home for him in West LA.
Ah, I see. So data centers, when you hear the news and read about the cloud and artificial intelligence and all of that, seems to be in one of the bright spots in terms of development. Is that what you see?
I think it's the most significant development area.
I see.
In the country, if not the world.
So, as you look at the industry as it stands today, there's a lot of challenges. Certainly, I mean, we're in this office rather than the one we were in a year ago, just because of downsizing and hybrid work, and many people and the gentleman that actually occupies this office is working from home today. Many of our people are doing that. So there's that challenge that came from COVID, and obviously the very, very quick rise in the cost of money has been a strong factor. And yet on the other hand, there's like the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and some other legislative things that, at least in principle, have generated some cash flow into the construction industry. What would you say is the largest challenge in the industry as you see it today?
I think probably the biggest issue is cost and availability of materials and how they fluctuate, up and down in fast cycles.
Yeah,
is a problem. I think the office sector is dead for the foreseeable future, except in specific areas around the country, but they're very few that I see.
Have you I've heard talk of adaptive reuse of projects that no longer are viable, in a sense of excuse me, the owner's the tenants turning over the keys to the owner because they can't afford the payments. Their people are not there anymore. They don't need that much space. Do you see opportunities in that space, the adaptive reuse space of these buildings, things that are not super class A's, as they call them?
Well, there could be. I'm not an expert in that at all, but from what little I know, if you're talking about changing office space to residential, it's a very steep climb, I think, due to the permits and the code requirements. The office buildings are built to a different code requirement than residential. Residential requires a lot more. I was in a conversation with Tom Bouquet from Seifel Bouquet, and he's actually writing letters about it, about how it's not going to be easily accomplished, because of the code requirements. Yeah,
I can certainly understand that, and as you know, the code is kind of what governs our day-to-day work here at Twining. So as you look back over what you've done in California and in other areas in Texas, what do you look back on with the greatest amount of pride?
Well, That's a tough question, Rob.
Okay.
You know, probably the highest high rises. The Korean Air Tower was a great project to work on. Library Tower was a great project to work on. I really enjoyed working on the Broad Museum. Eli Broad was a wonderful man, did great things for the city.
No doubt.
For the country.
Yeah, that's true.
All in a lot of different ways. And he was wonderful to me.
Great.
Also, the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas was great.
Sure.
But some of the more challenging projects have been large scale developments like Playa Vista. And I did a Potomac Yard project in Washington, D.C. for 4 years, working with, railroad companies, cities, working with the utilities to redevelop areas into, mega centers.
I see.
Of mixed use. It was challenging and very rewarding.
And I have no idea about this at all. I don't know if you have children or what your situation is, but a young person today, would you guide them into a career that was somewhat analogous to yours in the sense of being part of the development industry?
Yes, I thought I would always be a contractor when I moved to Texas originally, and didn't think I'd ever go on the development side, but I did, and I never looked back.
Yeah.
So I there's so many different positions that are available to young people in the construction and development end. Right now, I think the developers are all struggling with the marketplace and the results of the pandemic, but I think it'll be back.
Yeah.
America will grow.
We have to, right? And certainly, if you read geopolitically around the world, so many countries are suffering from demographic things, right? Japan and China and others. Where are the young people going to come from? And and we face a little bit of that ourselves in terms of having the people to do the work that will need to be done. And that kind of, I'll turn 70 this year, and I have literally zero desire to retire. I really like the people that I work with, and I like what I do for a living, and it affords me the opportunity to do some of the things I like. And so I don't have any retirement plans, but I know that, I'm a boomer, as the saying goes, and a lot of the people of my generation, and I'm guessing you're a boomer as well. And, so a lot of us are hitting that age when we think about retirement. In fact, my former partner in this business retired in 2021. And do you have plans beyond a career that you're looking to retire, or are you going to be like me and get wheeled out?
Well, I'm a little older than you, but I love what I do, and as long as I have great clients that on great projects that they think I can be helpful with, I have intent to stay.
Gotcha.
Doing that.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, I would foresee that, I'll phase out age-wise.
Yeah.
But I'd like to stay in the industry of maybe giving back and helping others. Maybe something like Habitat for Humanity or something similar to that, where I could, if anybody was interested.
Yeah.
I think once you get to a certain age, people get disinterested in you just because of that.
Yeah.
But there's a great knowledge base.
There is, yeah.
And I would like to help other people. And that, and as well as education, I think one of the most important things that I've tried to guide myself with is creating trust.
Yeah.
And as an example, when we met and we've worked all this time, it's because of trust.
Right.
There's others in your industry that I found untrustful. And that's helped stimulate our relationship in business and through all of these years.
Yeah, it has, and I've you've always lived up to everything that you've ever said, and then conversely, we try to do the same. I try to do the same, and propagate that through the people that we have in the company. Trust goes a really long way. And then to go back to your point about knowledge, it's even though the world is changing and young people today, maybe a Gen Z person or something might think about being a coder rather than a developer or something like that. Mm-hmm. The world has to get developed, and the knowledge that you bring, and people of my generation, your generation, you can't get that in school. You can learn some things in school. And by no stretch do I mean to diminish school and formal education, but learning how the world works is a very different thing. And 50 years of experience in the field is going to give you knowledge and wisdom that simply can't be achieved any other way. And trying to communicate that to people who are up and coming is a very important thing.
I completely agree. I think one of the big areas that this country is going to find itself in is in the infrastructure that runs everything.
Yeah.
Because all of that mainframe is old.
Yep.
And it's about, a lot of it is about its life expectancy.
No question. And
I think that there's going to be a tremendous volume of work in that'll affect everything.
Yeah, and you hear about a lot about grid resiliency and grid security and things of that nature, and the amount of money that it will take. And we're going to transition to, I think, 30% of California's trucks have to be electrified by 2030. That's going to require more transmission and more power than we have available at this time, and that has to get developed. There's just simply no other way.
Right. It's going to be a big struggle economically, as well as physically.
I was about to bring that up, is where are the resources going to come from to accomplish that? It's not like California is awash in free cash, so to speak. So we'll have to see. It will be interesting times. So as your career developed, I don't know, you probably do. You may know the reputation you had 30 years ago. You were a very blunt individual, I'll just say. And people would go, I would mention Bob, and people go, oof, because you were very direct, I'll just say. And I know when we chatted about this interview, I gave a couple examples. I remember at a project meeting that we were on, you queried an architect as to whether, well, would that be an error or would that be an omission? And very early in my career, sitting in your office over at Colorado Place, you mentioned something and said, you're going to see your head rolling down Santa Monica Boulevard without a body attached. And it was, you were very, very direct. Do you feel like your approach to things has mellowed over the years, or do you still look at things as directly as you did back when you were 30 years ago?
Well, I hope that I may have mellowed a little bit, but there in development, or at least most of the work that I've done, there was tremendous pressure on cost.
No doubt.
And there was tremendous pressure on delivery to a schedule. And there was tremendous pressure on quality.
Right.
And what I've found throughout my career is there are a lot of people that want to be in this business, but don't want to work very hard. And that was never something that I felt I wanted to tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
So I was blunt to get things done.
Yeah.
And I probably still am today in my mind, but I may not be as direct
I see.
about it
Mm-hmm.
as I once was. But, you know, I wouldn't take back anything and develop, you know, lifetime relationships with tons of people.
Yeah.
Great architects, great engineers, great people that I've worked with, you know, over and over.
Yeah.
In different areas and on different projects in different parts of the country.
And you know, and I would say that the people that I know that know you, one of the words they would describe you with would be loyalty, in the sense of if people live up to their word and do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it, you stick by those people and will support them in what they do, and you certainly have that reputation. There's no doubt about it. And clearly the people that you know and the people that you've dealt with are a reflection of that. So on a more personal note, what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
That's easy. Golf.
Do you?
My wife and I golf. She just started 10 years ago or so.
I see.
And it's our major pastime when I'm not working.
Mm-hmm.
So traveling with it and just enjoying it.
I see. Have you been to, like, you know, I know that you know my former partner, Ed Twining Jr. Everybody in the industry knows him as Butch. Right. He's actually running for Huntington Beach City Council now, of all things.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, good for him. He enjoyed it more at the beginning than he does now in the raising cash phase of that campaign. But he's an absolute golf fanatic, and he's traveled to Scotland and Ireland and England and all over the country at some of the premier courses around the world. Is that something that you've done some of?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going on a trip to France.
Wow.
At the end of the month. To go play golf courses and tour Normandy. It's the 75th reunion or something.
I see. Yeah.
And we've been to Europe several times and really enjoyed traveling, seeing different places and playing a little bit of golf.
Yeah.
Golf is the instigator.
Excellent. Yeah, I you know, when I first became a partner with Butch way back in 2000, he said, "You're going to have to learn to play golf," and I gave it my best shot, and it just turned out that I wasn't making people happy that I played with. I'll just say.
If you don't keep up, most people get irritated.
That was me. So I've let that go. We actually have a golf tournament that we sponsor every year. It's a charity tournament that's coming in August. Would I be able to coax you into participation?
I think that might be able to be scheduled.
That would be great. That would be great. We would just love to have you. And you know, and we also do the air show every year. So,
right.
Yeah. So if someone were to want to get into this industry, taken broadly, as a youngster coming out of high school or that era, what kind of recommendations would you have for them?
And to be in development, on the development or the ownership side?
Yeah.
I would highly recommend getting some architectural background. That's served me very well. and you know, some engineering background and get a degree in that, and just angle yourself towards whatever your goal might be in life. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult to change slots or change lanes.
Though you did it.
Right, I did, and I think I was very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Most people that I worked with wanted to do what I did, but a lot of them didn't have all the tools necessary.
I see.
Or the work ethic.
Yeah.
Um, my wife would tell you that I work way too much, that it never turns off.
Yeah.
I think about all the projects and always have. It's very hard for me to turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people, can't make that much of a commitment. I found.
Excuse me.
Maybe they can. I just couldn't see it.
I see. Yeah. Well, I know you mentioned the Korean Air Wilshire Grand development, and so my last job as a field inspector was Getty Center, as you probably
Right.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and you and I have the good fortune that we get to drive by or whatever these iconic developments and go, yeah, I was a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Would Getty Center have been built without me? Yeah, it would have, no
Absolutely.
question. But I was a part of it, and there's a great deal of pride that comes from that. And my kids will, when we drive by there, they'll say, "Oh yeah, Dad was part of that project," and that is a thing that there aren't all that many careers that allow that kind of looking back and say, yeah, I was a part of Wilshire Grand. I was a part of Getty Center, and things that people will be attending 100 years from now when I'm long gone. So the career is very rewarding in that way, even though you and I are participants in kind of different aspects of it. But it also gives us the opportunity to get to know one another. And you mentioned Tom Bouquet, and we go back with him and all the guys over at Engelkirk, and
Mm-hmm.
on and on and on. And it's just been really good. Well, is there anything you think we need to cover that I haven't brought up, or?
No, I think you've covered about everything that I probably have any ability to speak about.
Excellent.
But thank you for all the years of trust and always being there for me when I had a client that needed your services. You always stepped up in a very professional manner, and I thank you for that.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the trust you've placed in me personally and in our company. And we will continue to do everything in our power to live up to that trust and do the things we say when we say we're going to do them. And with that, thank you so much for being, a part of this, the inaugural version of Building Connections with Twining. And I know we'll be in touch in the future.
Okay, Rob, I
All
hope
right.
so.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
You bet.